It's time for another Q&A I do every month, and I've got more of your questions that I'm going to answer, including a tough one or two. So let's go ahead and get into it. My name's Jimmy. I'm drinking some Blackbeard's Delight from Black Rifle Coffee, and this is Coffee and Trains. This video is brought to you with support from Trains.com. Trains.com is a fantastic source for new and used model trains and accessories. As a special offer to my subscribers, you can use the promo code JimmyDIY to get $10 off your order of $50 or more. You can check them out at the link in the description. If you want to tell me what kind of coffee you are drinking and have it featured just like these guys right here, you can do that in the comments below, and who knows, you might see your name pop up on an episode of Coffee and Trains. Also, this is the monthly Q&A where I answer your questions. If you'd like to get your question in for next month's Q&A, you can do that in the comments below. I just ask that you get those in kind of quickly because after about a week, I start to cut it off, and so I can go in and produce the episode. All right. Cheers, let's get to it. Will Everett asked about my new intro for Coffee and Trains and asked, what train am I riding? Well, I have a bit of a secret here, and that is some stock footage that I just happened to find a cup of coffee sitting on a moving train, and I was like, that is perfect for what I am doing. Now, if I had more passenger rail near me, I would probably ride it more often. That was convenient, but the only passenger train that comes through my town is the Crescent, and that's at about 3 to 5 in the morning, depending on when the schedule is. There is light rail in the city that I work in, which is Charlotte, and I do ride that somewhat regularly. There's a lot of intercity passenger rail service in North Carolina between Charlotte and Raleigh that goes back and forth, and it's continuing to grow, so I'll probably get more opportunities like that. The one big passenger train adventure that I have done is I've ridden the California Zephyr from Denver to Reno, and that was a ton of fun. I can highly recommend it for any train nut. Sadman68 says they have an all-diesel collection, but they pre-order big boys from Athearn and Broadway Limited. They said they only need one 4014, so any idea who makes the better steam locomotive? So there are 3 companies in N-scale right now in North America that make a 4014 big boy. Those are Athearn, Broadway Limited, and Cotto. So I actually have big boys from Broadway Limited and Cotto, and then I also have a Challenger from Athearn, which, if you know the history of the big boy is basically they took the Challenger and stretched it out and put some more wheels on it. I will say that they all are pretty close to the same. Cotto's is a bit different. Cotto's is the modern excursion version, so you can't get the classic version. So that's one that I can recommend. Broadway Limited's is also really good, and it is the only one with smoke in scale, and it is very good smoke. It runs really, really well, and I really, really like it. And Athearn's was really the first of the major American brands to make the big boy in DCC and sound. And I will say that Broadway Limited has Paragon 4, which is fine and totally great. Cotto and Athearn both have soundtracks in them, so they sound pretty close to the same. But it just really comes down to what you want. If you have a lot of Cotto stuff, you may be inclined to go get the Cotto big boy, just because it's going to work. It's a Cotto, so it runs like a Swiss watch. The Broadway Limited one has the most features, so if you're interested in features and sound effects like that, that's one. And the Athearn is just kind of the right in the middle in between Broadway Limited and Cotto, so that's basically what it is. The other thing is that Cotto's is a plastic shell over. It has the metal weight. The body, the chassis is in there. Broadway Limited's is metal, and I believe Athearn's is at least partially metal. So that's another difference too. The Broadway Limited and the Athearn are more similar to each other, and the Cotto is built a little bit different, but they all run fine in my opinion. So yeah, so it's just a matter of which one you want and preference. Darth Maul Vader 22. That's a good name. So it says, DCC EX can control DC trains. Is this safer than doing regular DCC controllers? And if using the CSB1, can you add a motor shield where I have to output DC? So I believe you can add a motor shield to the CSB1. I think it has the connections. Hang on, let me check. Yes, it does have the connections. I think you just have to take off the screen that comes with it. So you can stack the EX motor shield on it, I believe. So yes, you can do that, and I know that you can use TrackMaster to run DC, but I've never actually used that, so I can't fully speak to it. But if you're doing just a DC output versus running a DC train on a DCC system, that's going to be a little bit better for that DC engine, just because, yes, you can run DC engines on some DCC systems, but it can be a little bit rough on the engine, and it's just not that great for it. So yeah, that's going to be a little bit easier for it. Cathead Knows is asking about controlling Kato turnouts without using an Arduino or any sort of code or anything. Well, Kato makes their own system that you can control. They have little levers and switches that you can buy to attach to it and throw those turnouts, and they need power like other controllers like Bachmann or Atlas or something like that. And they actually have a power supply that you can buy to connect directly to it. I will try to find one and link in the description below. Maybe something you have to order from Japan. I don't think they have many over here in the States. But that is what I would use for that. It's a good little system. It feels very nice to throw because it's kind of got a little bit of a spring-loaded action where you push it a little bit and then it throws like it's really throwing. So I like Kato's little controllers for their turnouts. If you have a smaller layout, you can bunch them all together. And have that accessory controller that just plugs into the wall, and that should be the way to do it. Steve and Aragon 3182 ask, what are my thoughts on permanently attaching structures, vehicles, etc. to your layout? And they also ask, do you cover your layout when not in use? And so for the first question, if your layout is going to move a lot and you don't intend to do a bunch of changing, I would consider permanently attaching stuff. MRR1 that moved around a lot had everything glued in place, and that worked pretty well. So yeah, if it's going to move around a lot, definitely glue it. My buildings over here are not glued down at all. So, but for your second question, do I cover the layout? I have thought about covering this layout. I think I tried actually at one point, but it kind of started messing up the tree canopy. So I may try that. I've been thinking about that super lightweight painter's plastic to keep the dust off, but it's definitely something that I'm going to try, and I'll probably report back to at some point once I get the layout done. But for now, I'm not covering it, but I'm in a garage and I probably want to. Matthew Hancock 2127 asks, why do I not use servos on turnouts more? Well, the big reason is because a lot of my layouts are built with Kato Unitrack, and they have the built-in turnout motors in them, so that is what I use for that. So, but for servos, yeah, I mean, I really want to try using them more often because they're super cheap and they're pretty easy to wire up and control. So that's probably something I'll do down the road when I get into doing some non-Kato Unitrack stuff. Thomas L. Durbin 2517 asks about, because I'm a video producer, he asks about free software for editing videos that would be easy for a beginner. So here's the funny thing is, like, I actually don't know a ton of, I haven't played around with a bunch of the free editing software in a long time, just because I've been in the industry so long, and I've been in the Adobe suite with Premiere and After Effects just really long. So, but the one that I know that it's free, that is pretty simple to get started with, but you can also go super deep with, and there's a ton of support on it from the community and things like that, is DaVinci Resolve from Blackmagic. You can get a free version of that. It is a professional editor, but it's also fairly easy to get started on and learn, and there's a bunch of people that use it and can give you tutorials on it that you can find online. John Simrak 3106 asks my thoughts on circuit breakers and are they necessary. He has a 3 amp Digitrack Zephyr system, and he wants to use the NCE EB1, or at least he's asking about it. Well, the good thing is that the NCE EB1 can work with the Digitrack Zephyr. It can work with just about any DCC system. It simply just cuts the power when it detects a short circuit, as long as it's in that link. So the big reason you want to use circuit breakers is really for power districts. So most DCC systems, actually I think pretty much all DCC systems, even DCC EX and all that, have short circuit detection, and they will cut themselves off when they detect a short circuit. And that's going to protect your system a lot. You're going to have enough time to be able to find the short and get rid of it and get it all fixed up. So circuit breakers really come in handy when you have multiple operators on a layout and you want to have power districts where you have all the power for a certain area there, and let's say someone is doing something in one district and they short everything out. If you have a circuit breaker in between that and the rest of the layout, it's only going to short out that section, and it's not going to affect the whole layout. That's really the big advantage of circuit breakers. They definitely help with keeping your DCC system protected and your engines protected, but that's the really big advantage. I do not have any circuit breakers on this layout. It's really too small to have that, and I short stuff out quite a lot in the construction phase right here. So yeah, so yes, it will work with the 3 amp Digitrack Zephyr. DWiggy315 asks, do I think that there is a surge of modeling the 19th century railroads? He says he's noticed a lot more people picking up the era, and a lot of manufacturers seem to be turning a blind eye or not recognizing it. And would you ever pick up this era to model? So it's interesting. So where I think this shows up more is in the larger scales. I think that in scale is always going to lean more modern, just because steam engines are harder to build in this scale for manufacturers, and you're going to see more turn of the century or transition times and mid-century diesels and modern diesels on N scale. So that's probably why I wouldn't do a ton of it. If I was doing, say, ON30 or doing a larger scale, like one of the variants of G gauge, then I would definitely be looking at turn of the century stuff. I think especially in garden railroading, you see it a lot more often. And also in the narrow gauges, you see it a lot more often because that's when it existed. Also, there's the fact that one of my favorite engines is the little 040 Porters. And I think that those are just neat little engines. And I have a fascination with narrow gauge. Not enough to build my whole layout on it, but it's definitely something that I do like doing some stuff with. So I might build a narrow gauge layout at some point. Dave Bladeout 8419 asks about why they're having such a hard time running Arduino sketches on Windows 11. They said they've got it downloaded, got everything, and it will not compile, though it copied it word for word. So that's interesting because sometimes I run into that when I'm downloading a sketch, and it's through really no fault of my own, but sometimes there can be little phantom characters and things like that. I believe there's a repair feature in the Arduino IDE, and that's something that I would try. I would also try downloading an older version of the Arduino IDE from the website. You can just Google how to do that, and that a lot of times will help me out as well. Crazy Legs WM6MF said, do you ever cut out fixed boxcar doors and replace them with movable doors like Microtrain's boxcar doors? I have actually never done that, but I think it's because I'm in scale, and I think if I was in HO scale where the detail's more evident, that may be something that I'm inclined to do. Oh, Captain 13 asked, do I know of anyone who has made a video explaining the different companies and what their different model lines are? So he's talking about, when you talk about, let's see, scale trains with operator, rivet counter, museum quality, and I think there might be no Kit Classics, but I think that's a different line. Let's see here, Athearn with roundhouse, ready to roll, Genesis, those like that. So what do they mean? Well, that would be something that would be a really good video, and I think I'm going to write that one down and do it. So be on the lookout for that video in the next few months. Roy Byers 4103 asked about what are the best turnouts for DCC operations. So what you're typically going to look for is an insulated frog. Now, the reason that you need this is because the inside rails that come out of the frog, which is where the track diverges in the middle of the turnout, those are typically need to be the opposite polarity to work. So that insulated frog is going to keep you from having a short circuit on the frog. Now, Kato has an insulated turnout frog. Atlas has them. I think a lot of people pretty much agree that the Pico Insul frog turnouts are some of the best ones out there. That's PECO, not PIKO. So those are the ones you're really just looking for, an insulated frog that is going to change its polarity. Kato does that. I think Atlas does that. So that's really what you're going to be looking for with that. It's like an insulated frog. Morgenstein Railroad says that he is beginning to wonder if I can do an entire video without saying the word Arduino. He says that I keep recommending the use of these things, but railroading is about trains, not PCBs or electronics or computer programming. He said, why do we need to become coders and electronics engineers to run a model railroad? Well, the bottom line is that you don't. But one of the things that this channel was founded on was using Arduinos to build your own control systems, because a lot of times the control systems that we use for signals and turnouts and switches, which is a big part of the hobby, are pretty expensive when they're made out of the box from manufacturers. And that's totally fine if you don't want to take the DIY approach and get that. But if you want to save some money, or you just like the challenge of doing a DIY project like that, an Arduino is an extremely easy to use little electronic microcontroller that can do a lot of the things that a model railroad is. The other thing is that model railroading is a super hobby. It has a lot of hobbies within the hobby. You've got all sorts of artwork, you got woodworking, you got all sorts of creative and practical and engineering things in it. And you can basically make the hobby whatever you want. It's not strictly saying if you're not just running trains, you're not doing the hobby. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with the hobby, as long as it's pretty much oriented around some type of train going on some type of rails. So that's the thing about model railroading and hobbies in general, is that you can't really confine them too much. Obviously they have some parameters and they become different hobbies, but overall it's a very wide array of interests and things that come together to make model railroading. Plus, you do have to remember that model trains at their core are electrical motors that are being powered through electrical connections in the track for the most part, or sometimes battery power. So that's one big thing about this is, no, you do not have to do all these things, but for some people, it's fun. If you have questions that you would like answered in next month's Q&A, you can put that down in the comments below, and who knows, you might see your question pop up in an episode of Coffee and Trains. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.